Hello, guys. We haven't done a video together on this channel in a while. We didn't do, of course, sketches. We took a weekend off because it's really just a dreary, dark, cold, wet weekend.
Yeah.
And we did like basically six videos last week.
Right.
The outtakes too. On Sunday. So we give ourselves let's give ourselves a break. But yeah, I had an idea though, and I kind of wish I had thought of it,
for Halloween.
But screw it. Every day is Halloween, as Ministry used to sing. So we decided, and we might do more of these for different things, that we would rank our top 10 with a few honorable mentions. Favorite vampire films or Dracula vampire films, whatever. Mm-hmm. If it contains a vampire in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, now with this, some of our criteria, like parodies or comedies can be included if they're good, they're likable. Animated films can be included. Anything from the 1900s on to today.
Yeah. So long as it's got vampires in it, it counts.
Exactly.
And by vampires, specifically the most archetypal blood-sucking variety.
Yeah, I'd say for
not
most
like
part. Yeah, for most part. There might be a few exceptions.
Not the suck your soul or suck out your life force.
Well, yeah, I was looking
metaphorically.
I looked on Wikipedia for this list, and they had Sleepwalkers and Doctor Sleep on there. I'm like, that's more vampires, really. But yeah, so let's more of this.
More traditional.
Now, my other criteria is I've seen a decent amount of vampire films over the years, and animated things and such. Mm-hmm. And I would say that, my criteria mainly for this list, and maybe for yours too. We haven't actually seen each other's list, so this will be a nice first time seeing it.
Yep.
And our criteria is basically rewatchability as well.
Yeah.
Because I've seen tons of movies that was either it would be it was kind of boring, or that was just bad, or it was that was okay, but I'll probably never watch it again. And then there's some that's I can watch that 20 times in a row.
Yeah. Yes, you'll notice the title is favorite.
Yes.
Not necessarily best.
Not necessarily bad. Yeah,
we're I think we're ranking this on enjoyment factor.
Yes, I think that's more. Yeah,
quality.
You might see something how could you not have this on there?
Yeah.
It's
at
the same time, remember, guys, everyone can have an opinion.
Yes, yeah. In fact, if we missed something, or you've got one that we were like, but what about this one?
Or we said put something in the honorable mentions that you didn't put in the top 10.
And you want to suggest something, just put it down in the comments.
Or one we've missed, maybe that we just
somehow
didn't, we haven't seen, or maybe one we haven't watched yet. And you should definitely watch that.
Yep.
I repeat things.
Yeah.
Because I totally listen.
All right. So, how do we want to do the list? Do you want to go spot by spot? Do you want to go through your whole list and then I go through my whole list?
I thought we'd start with honorable mentions.
Oh, okay.
And then we could start going number 10 on our list and kind of see how they compare.
Sounds good.
And we can kind of keep basic comments about the film and, maybe who's in it, whatever the case.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I am a gentleman, so ladies first.
Okay, ladies first. So, I have 5 honorable mentions.
Yeah, I have 6, so.
Okay, so my first one is Spanish Dracula of 1931, which a lot of historical horror film buffs are aware of. Not everyone may be aware of it. It's gotten some more traction in recent years, but it was made the same year as the Bela Lugosi, the famous Dracula, was made, because it was a time when talkie films were very much in their early stages. Nobody was dubbing film at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so early. So what they would do is they would make, if it's Hollywood, they would make an English language version, and then they would remake it in Spanish and sometimes also in French and German. And so usually with the same cast, but not in this case because Bela Lugosi wasn't really famous yet. There were no names. So what they did was they hired Mexican actors and filmed basically the script in Spanish. And it's interesting from an historical standpoint because it was considered lost for decades. It was rediscovered in the 1970s. It was released for the first time in the U.S. Since its premiere in the 1990s. People were going like gaga over it. It's very cool in the sense that it's got some really nifty special effects that are kind of like that sort of herald special effects that, you know, are kind of like part and parcel of a horror movie, but are like decades ahead of their time. It includes parts of the script that were cut from the English language version. And it's like it has a director who is a little more active with his camera, so you get to see parts. There were some amazing sets on that film. They shot on the same sets that the Lugosi version used, but because they had a director who was a little more malleable with his camera, you get to see areas of that set you've never seen before. So it's a really interesting viewing. I would say some of the cons of it are because it didn't make any cuts to the script that, quite frankly, should have been cut. It clocks in at like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that, and you feel that you feel it.
Gotcha.
And some of the acting is not great. Most notably from the actor playing Dracula.
Gotcha.
Which in a Dracula movie is kind of which is why it didn't actually make my list.
Fair.
But from a historical film standpoint and as a fun curiosity, it's a lot of fun to see. So that got an honorable mention. Also, as did Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Which, if you hear that title, you may wonder how that
is the Dracula or the vampire.
But there is a Dracula.
Okay.
Bela Lugosi only actually played Dracula twice on film. Multiple times on stage. Yeah, but only twice on film. One was obviously in Dracula, and the second and last time was in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And it's probably the best of the Abbott and Costello Meet films. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a Universal horror film fan. It's a lot of fun getting to see these characters in a comedy light. And it was... I saw it when I was a kid, and it was, of course, it's funny because it's Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, it also, Dracula specifically freaked me out.
Nice.
Like, I went to bed for like nights afterwards, like several nights afterwards, and I would like go to sleep like this because I was like, I don't want Dracula to come bite my neck. So it's just a great film.
Fair enough.
Third honorable mention out of 5 is the 1958 version of Dracula, because we're kind of on a roll there. That's the one with Christopher Lee in the title role. I mean,
was 58? Yeah, that was the 70s that was out.
I was about to say, he played Dracula multiple times.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the 1970 film Count Dracula.
Oh, okay.
But this was the first time, I believe. Yeah, first time he did it. And, like with the red eyes and everything. And it also Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. My opinion, the best of the Van Helsings.
He's pretty good.
And, it's just like Hammer film. Really, when Hammer films first came into their own, I feel, was with this film.
Nice.
The Hunger.
Oh, The Hunger.
Yes.
I think I've seen that, but I couldn't remember it as well.
From 1983. It has Catherine Deneuve and David Bowie.
Yes.
The vampires.
It's been a while since I'd seen it. I saw it on the list thing, but I didn't put it down because I couldn't remember had I seen that or not.
Yeah.
I think I probably I don't remember it well enough to...
Yeah, it's one of... It's like... Plot? Like one of those films.
So it's an 80s film.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely an 80s film. And Susan Sarandon is in it.
Yeah.
But,
I've seen clips of that.
You have seen clips of this. Yes. But it's very stylish. It's very nice to look at. Which in my mind is, I feel, important for a vampire movie. Like I want to get sucked into this like gothic nighttime dominated blood-soaked world, and so it's very, it's very nice to look at, and as a film, a horror film, specifically a vampire film, dealing with blood issues coming out in the early 80s. Like, you can see sort of like, this is a parallel for the early AIDS epidemic. Which is also something I appreciate in horror film, is like using those horror standpoints to make that sort of commentary without being like, making it important to the story rather than just slapping it on there. So The Hunger, it's a very interesting watch. And Shadow of the Vampire.
Is that the Defoe one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically, it takes the idea...
I didn't even see that on the thing.
Yes, it takes the idea of the 1922 silent film Nosferatu and poses the question, what if that actor who plays Count Orlok in that film, Max Schreck, which, by the way, is such a great name for an actor, specifically a horror film actor, because if someone correct me if I'm wrong, but Schreck means death in German or something that. Max Schreck. What if Max Schreck actually was a vampire? Nice. Is the concept of the film, and it's a lot of fun. Willem Dafoe is fantastic in the role.
I've never actually gotten to see it. That's the problem. I would have put it on there.
I would say people going into it expecting like a straight up comedy are going to be a little shocked, because this film was advertised, when it first came out, was advertised as a comedy. And I wouldn't say it's just a straight comedy. Like the ending, mix, like if you're expecting that, then the ending comes like right out of nowhere.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So, those are my.
Willem Dafoe, I'm in.
Yeah. Those are my, and John Malkovich.
Oh, nice.
Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich in the same movie.
Fantastic.
All right, so those are my honorable mentions.
All right, cool. So I have several here.
Yes.
I think I had 6. I will put Bram Stoker's Dracula in honorable mention.
Nice.
Now, I will say this. I like the movie only for Gary Oldman. He's really the only reason to watch that movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like Anthony Hopkins' Van Helsing. I thought he was too creepy. Keanu Reeves tries, like he usually does.
Oh, no!
He's really awful as Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
Winona, I like Winona, but to me, it's very stylistic, and Gary Oldman definitely carries the film.
Yeah.
But
it's very pretty to look at.
It's very pretty to look at, but I feel like overall, like a lot of people like it. I'm just kind of like, Gary Oldman was good, but beyond that, I'm kind of just.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because that was actually somewhat, not necessarily a remake, but they made one in the 70s that had Jack Palance. I believe Frank Langella was Dracula. But kind of the same Vlad the Impaler being Dracula thing storyline. I've never actually seen that one all the way through, so I can't really judge that one.
Yeah.
But I will say for stylistic and Gary Oldman's performance, I would say that one is
it's a fun watch.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to, like, just, kick back, be all like, it's Halloween season. I feel like watching a fun vampire movie. Then, it's a fun watch.
It's interesting that if you watch it, though, because I think it's interesting because right before that, or right a little after that, of course, several years later, the Star Wars prequels came out. And I can remember there was actually I think a friend of mine who was kind of fan casting him as, like, Palpatine. Gary Oldman.
Oh, Gary, I can see
like
that.
A prequel of that.
I can see that.
I can see that too. I'm like,
yeah,
make that happen, Disney.
Yeah, it does make me laugh that it's called Bram Stoker's Dracula, because I mean it definitely includes things that tend to get swept aside in a lot of iterations, but it's like in terms of characterization. Nothing. It's not related at all. Anyway, Go ahead.
The next one is a comedy. It's called Once Bitten. It's a movie with Jim Carrey. It's funny because it's early Jim Carrey, and it's he gets bitten by a vampire, and it's kind of like it's a comedy, of course, but it's funny it's just funny to watch Jim Carrey at such a young age, before In Living Color, before he really blew up. And it's a fun watch.
Yeah.
I saw it in high school, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Now, obviously, they made a series out of this later. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
Nice.
Which had Christy Swanson before she was, psychotic Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland, Rutger Hauer playing the main vampire. Paul
Yes.
Rubens, his
Yes.
epic. And the late Luke Perry as well.
Yeah.
And Hilary Swank in a very
Yeah.
early role.
And Ben Affleck, I believe.
Yes,
Yes.
Ben Affleck as well. Yeah,
As one
that's
of the
right.
jocks, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Who
That's
I think
right.
gets turned into a vampire.
I think maybe.
Yeah.
I know one of them does. But no, that's it's a fun watch, and you could see and that was Joss Whedon too, wasn't it? That he made that. Did he make the movie? Yeah, and then he turned it into a series, which the series was excellent for the most part, with a few hiccups here and there. I mean, despite the obviously reveal of how people were treated on the set, aside, the series, of course, was very influential and very well done.
I would agree.
Also, this one I've never actually seen I think it was I don't know what the original was made, but Let Me In.
Oh yeah.
Like I haven't seen the original one.
Let the Right One In.
Yeah, Let the Right One. I've seen the one which had Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah, Let Me In. Yeah.
Yeah. A very dark film, obviously a vampire film. But like especially the fact that she's a child vampire, and I think it's well acted and it's got some good creepy moments to it and stuff like that. So definitely check that out.
Cool. Wow. Thank you. That's a good recommendation for
Yes.
me. Cause...
This one we just actually watched a few weeks ago. It's called Bliss. It's a very interesting, different type of take on the vampire thing. Basically, spoilers if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But like it's.
I mean, it is in the preview.
She's a young artist and stuff like that, and basically she gets like turned into a vampire through essentially almost like cocaine. Essentially, it's basically like a new drug called Bliss, and so she slowly starts to turn into a vampire. But it's definitely very.
It's another one of those. This is a metaphor for that sort of.
Yeah.
Using vampirism.
But like it's very stylistic and
Yeah.
a lot of. If you can't deal with strobe stuff, don't watch it. Forewarning, if you have seizure things, then probably shouldn't watch it. But in terms of like, it's very gory. If you like looking at naked women, that's a thing that some people like to do. There is nudity in it. To forewarn that it is on Shudder.
It's definitely rated R.
Yeah, it's definitely rated R. It definitely takes. But like it was funny because I was like we were talking about it. I'm like, it's like they took the concept that American Horror Story season 10 had. And actually made it good.
Yeah.
Because
well, I think this came out before.
It did, yeah.
Horror
So
Story.
basically, it feels like American Horror Story just kind of
ripped it
off,
yeah.
and then completely ruined it. Well, I won't go off on that because we have a video. If you want to watch me rant on season 10, there's 2 videos of that. But anyway.
But can recommend, yeah.
But yeah, it's really good, well acted and stuff. And if for those of you Cheers fans, George Wendt has a small part.
Yes.
Norm Peterson. This one, Anna showed to me several years ago, Vampire Hunter D. It was pretty good. Yeah. It's animated and stuff like that, but it was an enjoyable watch.
I specifically because there's 2 Vampire Hunter Ds, one from the 80s and then one that came out in 2000, 2001, something like that. But that the second one is called Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which is what I showed you.
Okay, it was that's the one. Whatever it is I watched, it was enjoyable.
Yes. Oh yay!
So that's under. But I did have one more honorable mention I'm throwing in just for fun. Batman versus Dracula. It was an animated thing I saw several years ago on Halloween, and basically the premise is Batman's dealing with Dracula, and Dracula has turned the Joker. Into a vampire, and Penguin is basically almost his Renfield.
That's right.
But it's really fun. It was a fun watch on Halloween. I just happened to have it on TV. I'm like, I'm going to watch this, and it was quite enjoyable. So those are my honorable mentions.
Okay.
In terms of that.
Cool.
So now we get to the top 10 now. And apologies for if my voice kind of is doing things. You might remember that from the last American Horror Story video. My voice was also doing this. And it went away for several days. And then it came back on Thursday. So it's better today than it was yesterday. But I'm not really sure if it's something with the weather. The rain keeps coming, and I don't know. It's hard to say. So I apologize if my voice is not up to standards. And I have to keep clearing my throat.
Yeah.
All right. So
number 10 spots?
Number 10 spots. So we'll go back and forth.
Yes. Mine is Fright Night, the original one.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's, if anyone... basically, the idea is just a radio DJ who's a vampire, and like the kid who lives next door to him suspects he's a vampire, and like then he starts dating his mom,
Right.
and then he's trying to prove that he's a vampire.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
it's just
you have Rodney
80s
McDowell.
fun. Yeah.
I won't talk much about that because it's on my list too.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. In a different spot, but I haven't done so. Okay. So my number 10, actually, because I wanted to at least include, because I'm a child of the 80s, so you'll see a lot of movies from that generation on here. So I wanted to include the original Universal Dracula in a tie with Dracula's daughter. So I definitely, she showed me the Universal Dracula several years ago because I was playing Renfield in Dracula for a play. And it was quite good. Obviously, Bela Lugosi playing Dracula. And Dracula's daughter we watched last Halloween because I went through and watched the rest of the Universal Monster films, which were all thumbs up. But this one is very also historical because it very much played up very much kind of a lesbian thing with Dracula's daughter and stuff. And,
yes. And they're not it's not subtle. Like
the
scene where she goes like when she goes to the doctor being all like, cure me. Like I think a lot of modern audiences can like pick up where they're going with that. Yeah, no, that's cool that you mentioned that one.
Yeah.
Cool.
I couldn't tell you. I was like, I want to put them both on there, so I'm just going to make it a tie.
That's cool. Both those films end up on my list. And I'll confess, I actually had a tie for my number 10 as well.
Fair.
My other number 10 was The Little Vampire.
I've never seen that, so I saw it on the
I mean, it's a kid's movie, but it's really cute.
That's fair.
It's really cute.
There are no kids' movies on mine.
Yeah.
I had the Batman.
I mean, like, he befriends he's a little kid. He befriends a kid who also it's a kid who happens to be a vampire. He makes a human friend, while the little vampire and his family are on the run from this like psychotic evil vampire hunter, and so his human friend decides to help him out.
Nice.
So that one is more of a like families who live differently can still be our friends sort of thing.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's cute. Anyway, so those are our number 10s.
Those are our number 10s. Yes.
All right, cool.
Number 9.
Number 9. Nosferatu. Okay, so this one, after we've already went through Shadow of the Vampire, my number 9 is Nosferatu Symphony of Horror, which is the 1922 version. Nosferatu, for those...
I had written it down, but I actually have never seen it, so I realized I haven't seen it, so I've
it's on Shudder. We can watch it. So, yeah, it came out in 1922. It's silent. It's an interesting film because also in terms of the history of copyright, because it's the first Dracula movie.
Nice.
And but they didn't have the right, like they thought they could just just make a movie. Like, I've read this book, I'll make a movie on it. And Bram Stoker's widow was like, no. I did not give you the rights for that, and you're not willing to pay them. So that's why the main character is suddenly Count Orlok. So a lot of the basic plot beats are similar because they based the movie on Dracula. But not all of them. They do make some changes. And again, the imagery, the very stark imagery of like Count Orlok stepping out of the shadows, or like when he's like up at the top of the ship, like staring down at these have just become like iconic images in horror. And the design for him as this rat thing, like even now we still like any vampire who looks like that in modern
Nosferatu.
It's called a Nosferatu. And so it's very interesting. And it's also now, like, one of the things for me is like it can be a little like the middle section is kind of slow. But like, again, that imagery is just so evocative, and even today is like really captures your imagination. And the beginning of the film is so strong, and the end of the film is so strong. It's just It's really cool.
Very cool. Very nice. So this one, I won't say it's controversial, but John Carpenter's Vampires. I've put that as my number 9.
Okay.
So I saw this in the theater with a couple friends a couple years ago. Well, several years ago, I guess it was that. And now, despite what you may feel about James Woods as a person, he's fucking entertaining as hell in this movie. And then you have Thomas Ian Griffith, who played Terry Silver in Karate Kid Part 3 as the vampire. So he's this big, tall, menacing-looking vampire. And it's got that John Carpenter comedic and kind of, that very Big Trouble Little China.
It's got John Bon Jovi in it.
That's actually the sequel. He is not in this movie. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ironically, though.
Apparently, I only saw the sequel. Whoops.
Okay. Well, Daniel Baldwin's in it from Homicide.
Yes, I know who Daniel Baldwin is.
And what is his name? He's a guy that looks like he should be a vampire. It's like I want to say it's like Maximilian something. I don't know. Anyway, he has these really dark eyes. So and he's kind of basically the premise is that James Woods is a vampire hunter basically, and but they work for a church or something like that. So they try to weed out and find vampire nests and take them out. But then it turns out the priest he's working for is actually working with the vampire that they're after. Yeah. And I think the vampire killed his family or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen it. But it's a good time. And it's decent gore, decent effects for the time. And I know some people are like, oh, well, John Carpenter's peaked it. I'm like, fuck you. John Carpenter's awesome. He will forever remain awesome, whether he's doing movies or whether he's doing a soundtrack for a movie, which just automatically makes it that much cooler. The Thing soundtrack, check that out. I think it's an enjoyable film, and that's why I put it as my number 9.
Cool. So my number 8 already popped up on your honorable mentions list.
Oh, okay.
Once Bitten.
Oh, nice.
Again, we're going with favorites, not necessarily quality. Because,
to me, I think it just depends.
Because
if the movie's fun for me, then
right. This movie is it's incredibly dated. I'm pretty sure it was dated when it first came out in 1985. The two best friend characters, you can cut them right out of the film, and there's nothing except some offensive language. It's just a lot of those plot points are they just don't date well.
The dance scene is very.
But
very
I
funny,
was about to say the dance scene is classic. Yeah. It's great. Lauren Hutton is fantastic as the vampire. Mm-hmm. Jim Carrey is a lot again giving his all. Oh, yeah. And it's fun. It's fun little pokes at the sort of vampire mythos and how it's treated in media. And as a big fan of vampires, I will always appreciate those little satirical jabs and winks.
Of course. All right. So my number 8 is 30 Days of Night. Another more recent one. It is based off a graphic novel. They made 2 movies. I never saw the sequel. Because most of the time sequels. But this what's clever about this one, it has Josh Hartnett and several other actors that I'm trying to remember their names. And actually, the guy who played it, what's his damn name? Oh, Slade Wilson. Deathstroke on Arrow is in it. Mm-hmm. He plays one of his friends and all that. And there's another character actor, I forget, Ben Foster, I think. He's in there. And the guy who plays the head vampire, if you saw the terrible Wolverine Origins movie, he played the general Stryker. Yeah, he played Stryker in that. He was also in Wonder Woman. He was we think he's the villain, but he's not. That guy. So he plays the head vampire. But this one, what's clever about this one is that it's very gory, very dark. And basically it is that they're set in Alaska, and basically it's during these 30 days of night, so there's no sunlight. So they're stuck 30 days and these vampires come to town. This one guy, Ben Foster's character, basically leads them there and gets them there. So I guess he's kind of their Renfield, essentially.
Yeah.
And so basically, but what's nice about it was it came out at a time when we had the sparkling vampires happening. So it got things back to this. They were much more creatures. It wasn't the I am romantic vampires. It was like it's like they were animalistic. They had their own kind of language. They spoke to each other, which was mainly just But it was creepy, and it was. I thought it was a clever take on the vampire mythos a bit, and especially setting in Alaska and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it made it very. I thought it was, and it was pretty well acted overall. So, 30 Days a Night. If you haven't read the graphic novel, read that. But yeah, check out the first movie, and I don't know about the second movie. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Cool. Yeah.
Right on.
Awesome. So
Number
7 is, for me, Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I love that movie. I saw it in theaters. It got a very limited theatrical release in the U.S., and me and my best friend went to see it and loved it. It's so good. The animation is amazing. Like the first one, which came out in the 80s, it's one of those, it's good. It's good. Again, you can't go wrong with the animation. It's so detailed and so good. But it's also just a lot of, boobies and blood and literal intestines everywhere for 2 hours. And it can be kind of a lot. Right. Bloodlust is, if the animation for the original is here, then Bloodlust is it takes it up even several notches. It's so gorgeous to look at. It has an actual plot, which is more than I can say for the first one. The female characters are actually characters, not just plot devices like they are in the first one. And D is just great. D is basically the story is he is a half human, half vampire, what they call a vampire. He's the son of Dracula, so he's very powerful. And so, but he goes around hunting vampires, hence the name Vampire Hunter D. And that's why his name is D. We now know what that D stands for. And he also has a demonically possessed hand.
Oh, yes.
That talks to him. It's nuts. It's nuts in the best possible way. It's gorgeous to look at. And it has a really fun story.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my number 7 will probably be somewhere on your list too, if I know you well.
Okay.
This one is a comedy.
Okay.
A Mel Brooks comedy called Dracula Dead and Loving It. Now
you're not wrong.
Right, I was right with you. So let me just say, both of us will defend this film.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people, I don't know if it didn't do as well as some of his other ones.
It flopped horrifically.
It flopped horrifically. But guess what, guys? Give it a watch because it's actually a very entertaining movie. Mm-hmm. And is it Blazing Saddles? No. Is it Young Frankenstein? No. But it's got its own flair. It does a nice take off the Bram Stoker's Dracula thing.
Yeah.
You have Leslie Nielsen playing Dracula. I mean, come on.
It's got. I'll get to it when we get to it on my
Peter
list.
McNichol playing basically Renfield and just hammering it up. And,
oh my gosh, he's so good.
And then you have a good supporting guest. Steven Weber's in there, and Amy Yazbek is in there, and you have Harvey Korman.
Hmm?
Yeah, Harvey Korman.
Yeah, it's Dr. Seward.
Yeah, and Mel Brooks himself playing Van Helsing. Yes, so it's a very entertaining movie. It's a lot of laughs, it's a lot of fun. I think it's to go from dark to light. I said this is about favorites, not about this had to be the darkest favorite. It's just a fun time. Both of it. I was one of those things where I think I watched it with a friend, and then I was talking to her on the phone at the time, I think, and when we were doing long distance, and I mentioned that we watched. She's like, "I love that film," and I was like, finally, someone else who appreciates this film. It's underrated as hell.
It is. It really is.
So sometimes don't always sleep on those things that flop because the thing flopped. It's like the Clue flopped, and it's like you actually watch them, and you're like, yeah, this has got this is actually really good. So
Yeah. Alrighty, so number 6.
Yes.
For me, that is Blade.
Ah, funny.
Yeah. Is that funny?
No, it's just happens to be almost the same exact places.
Are you serious? Is it your number 6 too?
Yeah. Well, I'll get to it when I get to it. So.
Well, is it your number 6? Well, let's talk about it together then.
Okay.
If it's your number 6.
Well, I actually put Blade and Blade 2.
Okay, cool.
A tie, kind of.
Nice. We're so in sync.
Well, because I tried to exclude Blade 3 despite the fact that it had Dracula in it as a character.
But that was just because it sucks.
Not good.
It sucks.
It's a shame.
It sucks. So yeah, let's talk Blade.
We'll talk about the first one first, and then I can get into the second one.
All right.
The first one is a really good movie. Also, really the thing that started making it like, hey, maybe Marvel should do some comic book movies more.
Yeah.
It's dark, but it also has some good, funny moments to it too. You have, Wesley Snipes kicking ass as Blade.
He is human, so perfect as Blade.
Yeah.
Oh my, he's so great.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of like fun sort of, nowadays it feels like, oh, look at this fun late 90s sort of feel.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's like, it's just got this very cool, sleek look to it.
Oh, yeah.
The way they handle the vampires, like, they feel sleek and cool and menacing.
The opening scene in the club is just amazing. You got like techno music playing, and it's just
they feel like they live in this era. Like the sort of this loggerheads. What's Stephen Dorff's
Stephen Dorff, Deacon Frost.
Deacon, what a name! How did I forget that?
I love that name. Yeah.
Deacon Frost has with like the Council of the Vampire Elders.
He's kind of the new age. He's
like it feels
it
feels cool. It feels natural. It feels like an actual conflict. So it's kind of cool, like, to see that side of vampiric culture.
Yeah.
And
Donald Logue is one of his henchmen. So that's kind of
yes.
It's like Donald Logue.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, he shows up at the beginning and then like gets burned.
Yeah.
And like walks around. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like he's still in the film, but he's like walking around and like prosthetics for the rest of the thing. Yeah, and it's just Chris Christopherson as
Whistler.
Yeah,
that's fun.
It's just cool. It's just a cool action vampire movie.
Absolutely. And then Blade.
That's not Underworld.
Yeah, that is nowhere on my list either. Yes.
As much as I love what's his face. Michael Sheen as the head of the werewolves in those movies. Like, those were the only like once they killed his character off, and then he was in the prequel, and so I'm like, okay, I'm here for the prequel because I'm here for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. They were kind of so.
Yeah.
They wanted to be Blade. They wanted to.
And Kate Beckinsale looks great, but anyway, we're about Blade.
So anyway, as great as Blade was, then came Blade 2. Which Guillermo del Toro was involved
That's right.
in. And in this one, you get these really creepy vampires, which basically their jaws open and stuff like that. And so he's kind of following this path or whatever, and it turns out that it's a setup by a couple of, interestingly enough, because Whistler, of course, basically got turned at the last one. He tries to shoot himself, but he gets turned, so Blade finds him, and basically, essentially, it's almost like fighting withdrawals, or like going through a detox. Yeah, like he basically detoxes him out of being a vampire. But in the meantime, he has this guy. I think his name is Scud. I think the character's name is Scud. As sort of his, helper for now. Played by before Walking Dead Norman Reedus, who of course ends up being against him and setting him up. But also have Ron Perlman in there as one of the other vampires, because he has to end up teaming up with these other regular vampires to go after this other clan, because they're turning all the vampires into these monstrous creatures. It turns out that her dad was involved, and her brother is the one that's doing it, the main vampire. But yeah, and so it's just a great fun. The effects are just uploaded. That has that Del Toro dark style to it. Some good comedic moments too. Ron Perlman doing his Ron Perlman thing.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's got a lot of great just the effects with the jaw work and just top notch. So yeah, definitely. If only Blade 3 had been better, we could have had a perfect trilogy. Unfortunately,
we could have had it all.
It's kind of like it's like most of the trilogies that have come out. Like we get to the third movie and it's like, well, that was fun for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was nice while it lasted.
We'll talk about that another time.
Right.
Anyway, so that would be our number 6. Then.
Yeah, for both of us.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, ready for number 5?
Number 5.
For me, that is Nosferatu the Vampire.
Okay.
And
two Nosferatus.
Nice. So Nosferatu the Vampire is the 1979 remake of the 1922 film Nosferatu Symphony of Horror.
Nice.
And it was filmed by Werner Herzog, directed by him, and stars Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu. And it is, I honestly believe, where a lot of Willem Dafoe got his inspiration for Max Schreck in Shadow of the Vampire.
Cool.
It's interesting because they incorporate a lot of the sort of like silent film acting like into these very like sort of German surrealist moments in the film. But it's like it's a sound picture. It's filmed in color. There's like it opens with this like just the camera like panning through Orlok's crypt where it's just all these like dead bodies just sitting around, just like rows and rows and rows of them, and the vampirism there is treated as like a plague. So when Orlok arrives in their village, it's like a pandemic. Essentially, like people just dropping dead and no one can figure out what's going on, and and no one even really talking about it except like they're burning the bodies and just like the population getting smaller and smaller, and so like just like the visuals of showing that without even really talking about it. But there's also like these just really funny moments like his name isn't Renfield in this.
Yeah.
It's, I want to say it's Canuck or something.
Okay.
But he's basically a Renfield character, and like, can you be him for a minute? Like just coming up to Orlok, being like, and yeah, keep coming. I'll be Orlok. He's just standing there.
Yeah.
like there's just these really
my performance of Renfield was actually better. I'm just
No, yeah. Like that's pretty much exactly how the guy does it too.
Okay.
Just like so like there's these funny moments in there that you wouldn't really expect to be in there, which makes them funnier.
Yeah.
And Klaus Kinski manages to give some depth to Orlok that wasn't necessarily in the original. And the ending is just straight up tragic.
Nice.
Like it's just you think you know what's coming, especially if you've seen the original Nosferatu, but then they flip it on its head and you're like, oh no, it was all for nothing. So
very cool.
Yep.
Yes, my number 5 is more of a 90s film. Dusk Till Dawn from Dusk Till Dawn.
Nice.
So this was a Robert Rodriguez film, and it stars George Clooney and Harvey Keitel, Juliette Lewis, and Quentin Tarantino acting. But he's fine. And then, and Cheech Marin playing several roles. Danny Trejo's in it.
Yeah.
Makeup guy.
Makeup guy.
Famous makeup guy.
Rick Baker?
No. Another one.
Another one.
There's plenty of other ones. He plays Sex and the Machine in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god. He does like... God damn it, it's pissing me off. Like, I know his name and I'm like forgetting it. It's irritating me. Gotcha. Anyway, he plays Sex Machine. Fred Williamson's in it too. So, a big cast. But it starts out... What's great about it is it starts off... these two basically bank robbers, played by George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino, and they're kind of on the run. They just had this big bank robbery, and Tarantino's a little bit off his, rocker. He's a little bit more deranged, whereas Clooney's just like, I just want to, rob the bank and get the money and get out of here and go to Mexico.
Yeah.
Whereas Tarantino, he has kind of a I don't want to say a rapey problem, but he basically has a rapey problem. There's a particular scene that you don't see a lot of the thing, but basically they keep this woman kidnapped and then like yeah. So you're thinking at this time, you're just like, man, this is a really dark movie. Like, good God, jeez, you know. And then they have to get out of there and escape, so they find Harvey Keitel with his family. And he's a preacher who's kind of lost his faith because his wife died in a terrible car accident. I'll just sum up the whole movie for you. Anyway, and so they go to the run. They go to this place. They're supposed to meet Cheech Marin's character at this place called, I think it's in El Rey is where it's called. I forget. The Titty Twister is the name of the.
Yes.
It's basically like a stripper bar. Basically, it's like a strip club. And Cheech Marin's one of his roles in there is playing the guy outside, and then saying let him in. And then it quickly goes from this kind of like on the run caper to all these people in this thing are vampires, and they just slowly turn everybody. And it ends up, just being kind of a film of survival. But like the creature effects are really good. Tom Savini, that's his name.
Yeah.
Tom Savini. He was a makeup guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
How do you not know who Tom Savini is?
Sorry.
He's literally, like, other than Rick Baker, like, Tom Savini is known. Know your film history, love. Anyway.
All right. Anyway.
But he plays Sex Machine, which is funny as hell. But like the creature effects are really well done. It's very gory. It's has that Robert Rodriguez stylistic. If you've liked Desperado or any of his other films, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah.
It's got that very stylistic thing. But it feels very much like a Tarantino film meets a Robert Rodriguez film, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which is funny because, they did that mashup one that they did.
Yes.
Anyway, that's
Grindhouse,
that's my number 5. I've never actually seen the sequels. It's actually technically a trilogy, although Clooney only appears in one.
Yeah.
I think Bruce Campbell's in one of them, so that's cool. Cool.
All right.
All right, number 4.
Number 4 for me is Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Oh, nice.
And you already spoke at length about that, so I don't have to say too much. But like the parts that are dated don't matter. Like most
let me
of,
say, guys.
Most of them. Oh, sorry, just a second. Most of them are that are dated are just because they specifically relate to Bram Stoker's Dracula. Mm-hmm. The gags are timeless. They're hilarious. Leslie Nielsen is of course hilarious, but as someone on YouTube once pointed out. If this were not a parody, he'd actually make a really damn good Dracula.
Oh yeah, well he was a very talented actor.
Yeah, he was a very talented actor.
He started off very much as a
Peter McNichol
actor,
is perfection as Renfield. He's so good.
Yeah.
There's just not like in terms of the cast, like there's not a weak link. Everyone is just on their game, having a blast. It's just fun. It's just a fun, and the score is quite good.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. What were you gonna say?
I also like. On the dated thing. Now let me just say.
Oh gosh.
Real quick.
I didn't set you up, did I?
Quick aside. No, just calm down. Anyway, quick aside, guys. I know that a lot of days nowadays people look back on certain films, whether it be the 80s or way back when, as being problematic. And I use that with quotes. But anyway, now here's the thing. Now I can understand that, yes, some stuff is dated and by today's standards being problematic. That doesn't mean you still can't enjoy the film.
Yeah.
Because despite the problems with something like Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Mickey Rooney thing, the movie is still a good movie. Yeah. If you just kind of ignore that part there, and realize that, yes, the standards are definitely a lot higher these days than they were. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't still look back and enjoy something. Because you shouldn't stop liking something just because something's dated. So that's all I'm saying. And I know that's not necessarily the case with Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Right, no, there's nothing in there nearly as egregious as that. But but like a lot of it is like, all the women with like their boobs out. A lot of that was just like on, because of Bram Stoker's Dracula. All the women had their boobs out.
Yeah.
And it also leads to the part where like...
And as a straight white male, nothing wrong with women having their boobs
out. What does being straight or white have to do with looking at boobs?
Okay.
But
calm down there.
No, I am fine. No, it's just like there's this one part where like the vampire sirens come in to seduce Renfield, and they're all like, and he's all, my God, what are you doing to the furniture?
Yes, I still love when he comes in. And he's
wrong my brains out.
And when he runs in, it's just like, Master! I mean, Mister! Yeah.
He called him Master!
I thought he said Mister. That was
no,
clever ruse.
That was a clever ruse to fool the feeble-minded.
We've seen this movie a lot and can quote it.
It's great. It's just a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That was your 4?
That was my number 4, yeah.
Well, my 4 was actually Fright Night, so... So, yeah, you kind of talked about most of it, but yes, Roddy McDowall's in there, and he's kind of the... host a late night show about monsters and stuff like that, and so they go to him or whatever, and he's just like, I'm just a TV star. But it ends up really actually helping them. Chris Sarandon is the actor that plays the vampire.
Oh, that's right, it is Chris Sarandon.
Yep, good old Chris Sarandon.
Yes.
And he's excellent in the film. Amanda Bierce actually is in it from Married to the Children. She played the neighbor Marcy. She plays the girlfriend on this. But it's a good film. It's a lot of fun. It's dark at parts, but also very funny at parts. Mm-hmm. It has a nice, good tone to it. It's very, it's 80s, but like it's good. So definitely, I highly recommend Fright Night.
Yeah, cool. So number 3 for me is there's so much Dracula on this list.
Well, whatever.
I can't help it. So for my number 3 is yet another Dracula film, Dracula, from 1931. And this came up really high on my list, despite the fact, like, some people, and it gets criticized a lot today, and not without reason, that it moves, like, once the action gets to London, like, the film kind of like grinds to a halt, right. Plot-wise, and a lot of that is just because of the very slow, steady camera shots, combined with the fact that early talkies did not have film scores, so it can make things feel very slow. I have personally found, the more I watch the film, the more I like that, because it makes everything feel really weird and eerie and just
set the
like,
ambiance.
Ambient, like this dreamlike ambiance, and just, everything just feels very strange. Kind of like how Mina describes it in one of her monologues. It's like it like he came out of a dream, it ranks really high with me just because I get a lot of rewatch value out of it. Bela Lugosi is, for me, the ultimate Dracula. Even though he's working in some pretty strict confines, the standards of the time,
right.
The Great Depression, putting a lot, like, because this film was originally going to be based on the book, Bram Stoker's book.
Gotcha.
A little thing called the Great Depression happened, and all that stuff got edited out. They could not afford to film it. Nothing like, so like it was based on a play, an adaptation of a play based on the book instead, which is why there's so many things of people like describing him turning into a dog rather than actually seeing him turn into a dog. And stuff like that. But, like, despite all that, like, Bela Lugosi really, like, he brings this very, like, cold energy to Dracula that is still just incredibly watchable and very terrifying. I read an interview with him where he described his method for playing Dracula as, he called him a demon masquerading as a human. And to me, that's not only a great description of who Dracula is, it is probably the best description I've read of the vampire as we understand it in pop culture, just in a nutshell. Demons masquerading as humans. That's part of their appeal. It's also what makes them so terrifying. and he really captures that in his performance. I also absolutely love Dwight Frye as Renfield.
He wasn't as good as me.
No, which is high praise.
I know,
which is high praise, my love.
Thank you.
Because I would say that, because I would say that of the filmed Renfields, the Renfields who have all appeared on film, Dwight Frye is the best. Cool. So yes, you should feel proud of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because you get to actually see his progression,
right,
from like just a mild-mannered normal guy
to hey,
exactly, and like that the shot of him at like in the bottom of the ship when they're like looking for survivors, and that's a really cool scene too because it does so much with so little. Like all you see are just like shadows of bodies. You don't even actually see the bodies themselves as they're looking for survivors. And then they open the trap hatch and it's just the camera staring down into the trap hatch of Renfield at the bottom looking up, and the light has caught his eyes just right so it looks like they're glowing, and he's just standing there going it's like first time I saw the movie I was all like, you're even scarier than Dracula. Yes, so I know for a lot of people the 1931 Dracula wouldn't rank nearly so high, but it does for me. I've watched it a lot and I will continue to do so. I really enjoyed it.
I think in terms of for some people, I think Christopher Lee is a top one for them, and I can understand that.
I mean, he's great.
They're great. Yeah,
he's
those
great.
eyes, man. So I can understand that, but I can definitely, Bela Lugosi, of course, especially watching Ed Wood and stuff.
I would say Christopher Lee is for me a very close second.
Yeah,
like very. Just because he's so like tall and he's powerful and menacing. So for me, Bela Lugosi is number one, just because he didn't have any red contact lenses.
Right? Yeah.
That was all
just what you had at that time.
That was all just him. That's like, this is just my face. I'm just creepy.
Something I get away with sometimes.
Yeah, but also classy.
Yes,
classy.
Totally
creepy.
Classy, creepy.
And murderous.
Well, I hope I'm not murderous.
No, not you.
Okay.
Not you.
Am I classy, creepy, though?
Yeah.
Okay. Took a minute there. Anyway.
I had to think about it for a second, but yeah.
Back to me. Anyway.
So my number 3 is 1931's Dracula. What's your number 3, my love?
Okay, so
as we close in on 1 hour.
Whatever.
Yeah.
They'll watch. Anyway, so I have a feeling this will be in either on his number 1 or number 2. But it's my number 3.
Oh, okay.
Interview with the Vampire. Is this on your list, hon?
It is.
Okay, cool. I won't go into too much detail. Right. Then I'll let you really, because, I'll be fair ahead of time. I've never read the book, so I just kind of went in cold.
Yeah.
But this is it has Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, a very young Kirsten Dunst,
Antonio Banderas,
yeah.
Christian Slater.
Yes, Christian Slater, yeah.
like mid-90s, like peak mid-90s here.
But yeah, it's very stylistic and well done, well acted. Tom Cruise is excellent. Whatever you guys may think of Tom Cruise being a little nutty, like he's really good in this role.
Yeah.
I won't go into too details, but it's a very enjoyable film, and it's a good cast and a good story of kind of through the times of starting as a vampire and kind of a friendship and stuff like that over time that has a very homoerotic tone to it. It's obviously, but
it is Anne Rice's bread and butter.
Yeah. We don't go into that, but no, it's a very enjoyable film, and I definitely highly rank it a lot of it because of Tom Cruise, just because he's excellent in the film. So there you go. So this is more for Tom Cruise, just playing Tom Cruise in most movies.
Right.
Right. Your number 3, love.
So I did my number 3. We're in the top 2.
Oh, now. We're in the top 2 now.
Yes. So my top, I won't talk about it too much because I'm pretty sure it's on your list. So I shan't expand too much.
Yes.
Or expound too much, rather. So my number 2 is Lost Boys.
On my list, yes.
Yes. It's just, It's got that stylish feel to it. The Joel Schumacher at his best. Like these cool 80s vampires, an amazing soundtrack. This whole idea of like a teenage boy like starting to turn into a monster. The homoeroticism.
A lot of homoeroticism in vampire.
Yeah, well, it lends itself to it, really.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, a lot of it. Yeah, which is the mark of a good vampire film, is the sexuality. So just it's just a lot of fun to watch. It's fun. It's actually scary at parts. The fact that it takes so long before you actually see, like, because they're in human form for so long. Kiefer Sutherland and his little gang. So, like, by the time you actually see them, like, with their vampire faces on for the first time, it's kind of like, whoa, holy crap.
It's creepy,
so it's just a great, fun, chaotic film, and perfect for Halloween.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. So my number 2 is Near Dark.
Oh.
Have you ever seen Near Dark?
I have not. That's why it's not on my list.
Well, if you did, it would be. Let me tell you.
Okay.
This is a fantastic film. It stars Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton. I'm trying to think of what the girl's name was in it. But anyway, basically, they're kind of like... I don't know if they're really a family of vampires, but they're basically like a group of vampires. They ride motorcycles. And basically, this one kid gets... he lives on a farm with his sister and his father, I believe. It's been a while since I've seen it, but basically he gets turned. He falls in love with the girl vampire, and so then basically it's his dad and his sister trying to get him back, and but it's Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen are freaking amazing in it, and it's just great as vampires. It's gory. There's some good effects where Bill Paxton's face gets, I think it's even on the poster where his face just gets like half burned and stuff. But it's a great vampire film. A lot of good gore and good comedy as well. It's definitely got a very comedic tone to it. But yeah, basically like the dad, kind of like the dad, I think at the end kind of almost does like a blood transfusion to like get the vampirism out of his son, because I guess I don't think his son is fully turned yet, so he's like getting there. But no, it's a great flick. If you haven't seen Near Dark, definitely check it out.
All right, cool.
All right,
I shall. All right, our
number 1.
Yes, yeah. I think that was pretty obvious. My number 1 favorite vampire film of all time is not Dracula. Is not any iteration of Dracula.
Yep.
It is Interview with the Vampire, and part of the reason, it's one of those films that I feel that is, it's favorite. Yes, it's favorite. It's enjoyable. I've rewatched it so many times, but it's also just a good movie. It's well shot. The cinematography is beautiful. The score is gorgeous.
Yeah, totally.
The acting is good. It's just like the costumes are great, because like they have to start in the 18th century and then progress to modern day, i.e. 1994. It's just a great story. And the fact Anne Rice wrote the book Interview with the Vampire, or Interview with a Vampire, while she was trying to process the death of her 5-year-old daughter. And that really pops into prominence with the character of Claudia. It's why Claudia is the way she is. It's why Claudia has to go out the way she goes out. It's why she cannot exist in modern day. So like, in case you haven't noticed, I love it when you can make like these allegories and these like metaphors for stuff through
when you do them well,
through horror film. When you do them well, yes. And this is very well done. Like, you can see a lot of stuff of that nature. And the fact that I mentioned before for Dracula, that Lugosi voiced what I believe is a successful vampire, which is a demon masquerading as a human. And what I love about this film is that it takes that concept, like is clearly aware of it, and flips it around to basically ask the question, but what if the demon knows they're a demon and wants to absorb more humanity and have humanity? What does it mean to have humanity?
Right.
What does that mean, especially if you're a demon masquerading as a human? It poses these questions without being like pretentious about it, without like, you know, like you're feeling preached to about it.
Yes,
Each of the characters definitely has their own take on what it means to be a vampire. They have their own philosophies and everything. It's all such a great mirror to questions that we ask ourselves, and it does it in just a really fun, entertaining way. It's funny, it's stylish. There's lots of good blood scenes. The character tension is really strong. It's another one where you can make those connection to the AIDS epidemic if that's what you're looking for. Like if you can see that, like it's definitely there. Particularly in Lestat's design towards the end of the film after he's been through so much.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic bloody film, and I love it.
Right on. All right, well, no secret that my number one is obviously The Lost Boys. So, yeah, you mentioned some of it, but, like, in terms of rewatchability, I don't know if there's any movie on this list that I watch as much as Lost Boys. And it was just one of those movies that just, it hit really at the time. The cast is great. It's a lot of good humor in there, but it's still some good darkness. And just the design of the vampires, the way Kiefer Sutherland looked, even with his goofy haircut.
Goofy?
Well, I mean, it's kind of moldy. Yeah. And obviously one of his members of his gang is also Alex Winter, a.k.a. Bill from Bill and Ted.
I know, right? It's like, you turned Bill into a vampire.
Right, yeah.
You bastard.
Not an excellent adventure. And he doesn't,
doesn't
go out the best way there.
Yeah. I was about to say, and he's the first one to get staked. Yeah. You double bastard.
But you have the grandpa who's really funny. Bernard Hughes is the actor's name. I know a lot of actors' names. Diane Weiss plays the mom.
Yeah, she's so great.
She's always great. Jason Patrick.
Wendy, the Wendy character.
Yes.
Because it's Lost Boys.
That's true. And Jason Patrick and Corey Haim play brothers. Jason Patrick gets attracted to Jamie Gertz's character.
Star.
Come on, Star. Yes, yeah, I can really quite. And, he races to keep Sarah on a bike, and then basically, he gets given blood that they say is wine, and it's turns out to be, blood. So he's slowly turning into a vampire, and you just kind of see the slow progression, and his relationship with Star is a little tense for a bit there, but with
his brother.
Yeah, and with his brother, obviously. His brother, of course, befriends the Frog Brothers, Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander, I think is his name. See, like I said, I know these names, damn it.
You do know these names.
That's the Frog Brothers, who are very entertaining.
Yes. The erstwhile vampire hunters.
Yes.
Who also release comic books.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the comic book store for their parents. But yeah, the soundtrack is great. Who can forget the saxophone?
Oh, yes!
Yeah, and Cry Little Sister, one of the best freaking vampire sounds ever. But and it's the style. And yes, definitely homoeroticism. It's there. I mean, but yeah, I seriously agree. Schumacher at his best. I know a lot of people hated the Batman films.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it is what it is. A lot, some of that can also be studio stuff too. Studios interfering things.
Yeah.
Another one of his. If you're looking for another great Joe Schumacher movie, watch Falling Down. But yeah, there's just a great style to it, and like Kiefer Sutherland's great, as he always is. And also, let me give a shout out to the late Edward Harriman
Yes.
playing Max, who's just this tall and posing figure who just seems like, oh, he's just a nice guy, but he ends up being the head vampire.
Spoilers.
So if you haven't seen it, well,
spoiler alert on
shame
that.
on you for not seeing a movie from his.
But yeah, it's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but no, it's just a great film.
Yeah.
And it's great for the times. And let me tell you, number one, why your remake will not work. Because you are not Joe Schumacher. You do not have that style. It's why the sequels didn't work either.
Yeah.
Because it didn't get it. And you're not going to be able to recapture that.
Yeah.
The best thing they ever could have done was to do that Lost Girls idea, which was supposed to have Drew Barrymore and stuff like that, which would have been a different story. It would have been with females, and it would have probably been more interesting. But yeah, as far as it goes, or if they were to, they were eventually going to try to do a series or something like that. Of course, it was going to be on CW, so that probably would have sucked. But and now they got to do a remake, and I'm just like, just leave it alone, guys. You're not going to add anything to it. And people are like, oh, give it a chance. No, I won't. There's some movies, no. Just stop.
Yeah.
You know.
I also just realized as we were talking that my top 3 films all have something in common.
What is
regarding this whole idea with the demon masquerading as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Dracula, 1931, establishes that concept.
Yeah.
Lost Boys, the vampires of that film embrace this idea.
Yes.
Like, they love their demonic powers. They love the fact they can mingle.
It's cool. They're rocking,
intermingle with humans. Yeah, they love it. They're having a blast. And then Interview with the Vampire not only flips it around, but really opens it up to all sorts of the dynamics of what that means. Louis is tortured by it.
Yeah.
Lestat is partying with the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Armand is all about the old traditional way of doing things. Like, everyone's got their own take on what that means. So,
true. Yes, indeed.
So yeah, I just realized that. It's all like, my top 3 kind of were like all building blocks on that concept.
Absolutely.
Cool. But that's probably why they're my top 3.
Right. So obviously, guys, this video is over an hour, so we don't expect you to watch it tonight, but we do hope you'll watch it and subscribe to our Corner Productions.
Yes, and again, in all seriousness, if we missed your favorite film, or if we haven't seen your favorite film, let us know. I was like, let us know in the comments. Make your own list and share it with us. Feel free to share it with us. And if you liked what you see, give it a like and a thumbs up and subscribe.
Yes, and leave a comment if you want as well. And also, coming to this channel, we had a meeting earlier tonight. I know we've been talking about the podcast sort of idea.
Yes.
It's getting into motion. We're gonna have another meeting on the 20th. Our goal is after the holidays we'll have our first episode. And speaking of vampires, it has a connection a little bit to that. It's a fun idea we're working with. And it should be a lot of fun. As far as doing a traditional podcast, that will still be something that'll happen eventually. But right now we're working on this, getting this off the ground. Once that gets off the ground, we'll be able to try to do more of a podcast thing, which will be, we'll talk about things, and then eventually I'd like to, once things are less pandemic-y, and people have, projects that they want to plug and stuff, they can come on. Whether it be through Zoom or in person, and we can talk about, them as artists and what they want to promote and stuff. So some fun things coming to the channel. We'll get back to sketches next week as well on the other channel, Adonana. Like I said, we just took a little break, and my voice is, as you can tell, is a little bit.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap this up.
We're going to wrap it up.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you guys. Maybe we'll do one of these again sometime. Maybe we'll do werewolf movies or Frankenstein's monster movies or zombie movies or something. But we'll do the research and we'll have fun with it. And we hope you enjoyed us.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Good night.